Good morning, everyone. Just a few words before we get started. I was not given any announcements. That doesn't mean, it's likely that you were handed a sheet coming in that is yellow this morning. It has lists of things that are going on. Another way you can find out what's going on is by subscribing to our weekly e-news. What our goal is for you to find a way to connect with this community in service, in fellowship, that enhances your life. And so as you're looking at the needs that get put on a sheet by St. Andrews, or we're looking for someone to do this, or we're looking for someone to do that, just think of whether that's something that you feel might enhance your life. If you get just a little bit of a heart twitter thinking, oh gosh, I don't know if I could do that, that's probably a good thing to do. Okay? Step out of your comfort zone, but find a way that in addition to being here in the worship service and committees and things, that your life will grow. Let's begin our service.
Welcome. Well, we are so glad that you're all here. They keep telling me I have to almost eat this microphone. And we're glad that our friends on Zoom are here. And I want to let our friends on Zoom know that they won't be having their group afterwards. They have a conversation group after our service. But Babette and Jerome are here with us today. We're so excited. And we're sorry that you'll not be having your group. People on YouTube, please like and share us. And please record your presence on the attendance tablets. And anybody who's new, if you record your information, then we'll be able to send you our e-news, which is only sent out once a week, so we don't bombard you. Last week, I introduced a couple new members, and we were doing it quickly because we had communion and we wanted to move things along, but they wanted to share why they have joined the church. And I'm so excited about that, so I'm going to ask Natalie Turner and James Hinson to come up and share with us. Would you rather use that?
Howdy, I'm James. I work IT at St. Edward's University. If I had to describe my beliefs, I would say I've come to the same conclusion many of you likely have as well, that major aspects of the society we live in are flat out structured wrong. Cities run with real estate values placed above the need for housing, healthcare provided in a system where profit is placed above human life itself. And as Reverend Jim has often discussed in this venue, religion being used as a tool of hate rather than a tool of love. I don't think it's a stretch to say that humanity's values are in crisis, but it's nothing like the one the fundies imagine. Anyway, thank you for having me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Natalie Turner. I was born and raised in Austin, and I am currently working on certification as a Geographic Information Systems Analyst, or GIS for short. I grew up in a mostly conservative Christian family, and I was not encouraged to question the harms of my religion because I was told, mostly by my grandparents, that Christians were quality people. But as I got older, I began to see how religion was used as a tool of oppression, most often against marginalized communities. I did not want to be a part of a religion where many self-proclaimed Christians were homophobic, transphobic, denied bodily autonomy to anyone seeking abortions, didn't want to grant safety to immigrants, be outright racist, the list goes on. So I felt uncomfortable with many Christian churches until James's mom recommended St. Andrew's Presbyterian Church. Me and James have been coming here for, I think, almost a year now, and we were ready to officially join as of this month. And I'm excited to be here with all of you.
Thank you. And we are so excited to have you both. And now let us all join together in community.
There is, under the mystery that is us, a deep abiding sense of oneness.
It calls us to see each other as works of art. It calls us to hold each other as precious. It manifests itself in each expression of love.
As we gather today, may we be filled with an awareness of that oneness.
And may it spill over our time of togetherness to soak into and through the whole of our living. As light into life, we pray. Amen.
Please rise as you're able.
Good morning. I want to welcome the young and young at heart up for our puppet show. There are some bags of food in the aisles. That's for our food pantry. I already see friends helping with that. And while they are coming up here, I want to let you know, families with children or youth, we are having a swim party at Rockin' River Water Park in Round Rock on the 5th of August. And I need to know in the next week if you are coming so I can get tickets.
Thank you all for being here. This is wonderful.
Hello, everyone. It is so good to be with
Hortense,
you.
Hortense, we have an emergency. I think we should call 911.
Check. What's wrong?
It's Mr. Monkey. He's in trouble.
Help, help. My hand is stuck in a jar. Help.
Stand back. Give him air. Give him air.
Wait, Jack. His hand is stuck in a jar?
Call the rescue helicopter thing.
Yep, rescue.
What's in the jar?
It's M&M's.
Oh, well, why can't you just let go and pull your hand out?
'Cause it's M&M's.
Well, maybe the fire department can pry him out.
Jack, wait. Let me get this clear. The emergency that Mr. Monkey is that Mr. Monkey put his hand in a jar of M&Ms, and now he's stuck because he can't let go?
Why is this always happening to me?
Hang in there, little buddy. We'll get help.
Jack, the only answer is for Mr. Monkey to let go of the M&Ms so he can get his hand out of the jar.
Huh. Well, that's a good point, Hortense. You know, one time I wanted something real bad, a bell on my bicycle. So bad I couldn't think of anything else.
What happened?
Well, the bell finally arrived, and I remembered I didn't have a bicycle. So I get what you're saying about wanting stuff.
Excuse me, what about me? What about the poor little monkey with his paw in a jar?
I think what Hortense is saying is that even if you want the M&Ms, you need to let go. You want to be happy, right?
Yeah, but I want my M&M's more.
Well, I know you do, little buddy, but I think if you think about it, you'll want to be happy even more than that.
I'll tell you what, Mr. Monkey. If you let go of the M&Ms, you can have a banana.
Okay.
Crisis averted.
All right, young people, do you ever want something so bad that it's all you can think of? Sometimes you can want things so bad it makes us unhappy. One way to let go of things that are making us unhappy is to remember things that we want even more. Let's sing a song together. Can you handle that?
Oh, you'll help?
That's what I want to do.
Yeah. Well, this is a song we're still learning. It's called Is that on? We can hear that? Okay. So one of the ways that you can be really, really happy all the time for the rest of your life is to realize that there's something in you that's worth more than anything in the rest of the world. Jesus said you are the light of the world. He's trying to say there's something in you that's so valuable, it's more important than money, it's more important than other people liking you. And when you remember that, you can be at peace a whole lot more easily. Okay. And you promise you can hear this. You are the light of the world. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. You are an infinite word. Let your light so shine.
are the light of the world. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. You are an infinite word. Let your light so shine. Let your light so shine. One more time. You are the light of the world. You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. You are an infinite word. Let your light so shine. Let your light so shine. One more time. Let your light so shine. Thank you.
Come now into Sabbath space for a little while, where all work stops and all to-do lists can be set aside, where all the giving you do ceases, but for the giving of your entire self into the gift of Sabbath rest, balance, wholeness, peace, shalom. Be centered now in the light of love's sacred peace.
Let us now join in our time of prayer and contemplation. Get comfortable in your seats. We lift the individual concerns of our community. Lori lost her mom this week. She's traveling to Athens, Texas for the funeral, and our thoughts are with her and with her family. We especially lift up those facing health or brain health challenges. And there are those in our community who have gotten test results this week. We celebrate the good ones, Brett, and send comfort for the less positive ones. We also think of all those who are traveling during this time. Friends, I don't have to tell you, it's hot. It's been hot and it's gonna be hot. We lift all of those who are living outside in the heat, all who don't have air conditioning, all who work outside in the heat, and all who are traveling through it. May we recommit ourselves to work on overcoming climate change so that this does not continue. And let us be kind to each other during this time. Think with me of a lovely time when you felt cool or even cold. I know you're comfortable now because our church has air conditioning, and thank heavens we got the insulation fixed so that it would stay cool in this kind of heat. But during the week, there will be times when you'll feel hot. And go back to that time in your mind and remember being cool. All this we ask in the many names of the Spirit of love. Amen.
Our scripture this morning is from the book of Matthew, chapter 14. Jesus insisted that the disciples get into the boat and precede him to the other side. Having sent the crowds away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray, remaining there alone as night fell. Meanwhile, the boat, already 1,000 yards from shore, was being tossed about in the waves, which had been raised by the fierce winds. At about 3 a.m, Jesus came walking toward them on the lake. When the disciples saw Jesus walking on the water, they were terrified. "It is a ghost," they said, and in their fear they began to cry out. Jesus hastened to reassure them. Don't worry, it's me. Don't be afraid." Peter spoke up and said, "If it really is you, tell me to come to you across the water." "Come," Jesus said. So Peter got out of the boat and began to walk on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw how strong the wind was, he became frightened. He began to sink and cried out, "Save me!" Jesus immediately stretched out his hand and caught Peter. "You have so little faith," Jesus said to him. "Why did you doubt?" Once they had climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Those who were in the boat showed great reverence, declaring to Jesus, "You are indeed God's own." Ancient words for our present day examination.
Well, I want to add my thank you to everybody else that's spoken so far. Thank you for being here this morning, being with us. If you've been here many times before, you've heard a kind of obsession of mine to look at the difference between magical religion and mystical religion. I'm very aware that different people use different words and different labels for things, and that you may want to use different words than I choose and different labels than I choose. But I think when we look at our nation and we see the condition that much religion is in, how it's lost its bearing, how there are good and decent people who are doing terrible and indecent things, and often it's because their religion is keeping them from really coming to terms with things. We're looking today at a passage that can be looked at magically or can be looked at mystically. Or maybe you can come up with a combination that I haven't thought of. But in the story, Jesus sends people on in the boat. There's several versions of this story. But in this one, the one we're looking at today, the water's choppy, the winds are high. The people in the boat panic, and all of a sudden Jesus shows up. So then Peter gets out of the boat, tries, then he starts sinking, cries out, and Jesus rescues him. What I would like you to know is that Buddhism has a version of the same story that's probably hundreds of years older. where a disciple of Buddha is trying to get to the Buddha. Buddha preaches and the people don't hear or understand. So a disciple wants to get to Buddha, but the rivers have risen. So to get to the Buddha, he has to walk across water. And in the story, he starts to walk off and does fine, and then starts getting afraid and starts to sink. The people that heard the Christian version of that story may very well have already heard the Buddhist version of the story. As I've pointed out many times, Israel was a trading center. And so you had Buddhists and Hindus, you had Epicureans, you had Stoics, you had all kinds of philosophers and religions that people knew about. I personally believe that many of the stories in the Christian scripture come from other religions, and that when people heard them, they knew that, they recognized that. When you look at the writings of the early church, they're much smarter than anything that happened in Europe. Much, much, much smarter. And all you have to do is look at the index in the early church, the first couple hundred years, and you see Plato, you see Aristotle, you see other religions. You see philosophers left and right. To me, that must have been the original Christianity. In church and also in seminary, I was taught that nobody understood Christianity before Augustine showed up, Luther, Calvin, that the first generation were just confused. I believe they were much richer, but that's not what they wanted the church to be like in Europe. In Europe, they wanted people not to think. In Europe, they wanted people to submit to authorities and not question. And so it's very hard to get the Jesus of the Sermon on the Mount into much traditional Christianity. There's just a tension there. The question I want to ask, that I've asked, I mean, this has been my passion for 50 years more. What were both of those stories trying to get to? What were the people that told the story in both of those places trying to share with us that's deeper than the actual story? To get a clue, we're going to look at the Sophia passage. What we're doing in this whole series is we're looking at traditional passages from the Christian text, and then we're looking at the mystical Jewish sayings that were there for a couple hundred years before Christianity came along. And what I believe is that you see a lot of information coming forward, that it was a mystical religion, it was not a magical religion. Let's look at the text. One of the things that you notice in the Sophia sayings, that's the Greek term for wisdom. We get philosophy, means the love of wisdom, love of Sophia. And she sings her own song. This is the cosmic wisdom speaking. So when Jesus sounds like he's being arrogant, he may be referring to this cosmic wisdom. Let's look and see. Hear wisdom sing her own praises. She proudly proclaims her glory among her own people. She speaks out in the assembly of, that's the sacred name, in the presence of God's host. I am the word come forth from the mouth of God. So when John writes, in the beginning was the word, they already had this notion, not of a word like on a page, but a pattern that shapes the entire universe. So it goes, I am the word come forth from the mouth of the source of being. I am enveloped the earth like a mist. In other words, it's not just an individual, it's something that permeates everything. I dwelt in the high heavens, my judgment seat a cumulus cloud. So lots of good balance happening here. Alone I encompassed the vault of the sky. I wandered across the abyss, over the waves of the sea, over the whole earth, over all people and nations I reigned. Wait a second before you shift, please. What I want to point out is the word in Greek there is not the normal word for walking. It means to wander about. So wisdom is wandering about over the waves, is the way it is in the mystical text. And it is the same phrases are here, kind of thing. Let's move on to the next. Thank you. I searched for a place to rest among all of these places. Where would I dwell among all of creation? Then the creator of all these things chose a place for my dwelling and commanded me, dwell in the land of Jacob, make Israel your inheritance. Before my motion began to be measured, God created me, and my heritage will last forever. One problem that haunts religion is whenever a people hear that they're loved by God, they assume that means them alone, right? So this includes Israel, but it's not limited to Israel. It includes the church, but it's not limited to the church. So the problem isn't that we realize that we're uniquely loved. It's when we think that image of Sophia is a mother's love of a child, where she loves every child that she has like an only child. It's a particular type of intimate love. So when it seems like it's saying it's only Jesus, that's, I think, a misunderstanding of the poetry that's here. Okay, so in the story, we're choosing between the mystical and the magical. And what I want to suggest is the three differences that are very important is that when we think magically, we're looking for power. When I'm afraid, when I'm frustrated, when I feel my life is on the line, I don't tend to be deliberative. I want power. Mystical religion is looking for insights. Magical religion is trying to control nature. Mystical religion is trying to understand nature, trying to harmonize with nature. The second thing is magical religion usually talks about one-time magical events that it calls miracles. And there's nothing wrong with that, but the mystical is talking about something that's happening all the time. So magical religion, you have to look for it. You have to do something that makes it happen. And mystical religion is talking about the cosmic wisdom that's giving you being right now at this moment. And then finally, magical religion tends to be private or sectarian. It tends to be something you're wanting for yourself or for your group, the group that you care about, whereas mystical religion has to be everybody, everywhere, all the time. So let's walk through the story and see if this holds up in your mind. First is the idea of power versus insight. In the story, Peter represents us. When we feel like we're lost in a storm, when we feel like our boat's taking on water, we can have moments of inspiration and courage and strength, but it often unravels underneath our feet. Because it's not based on understanding. It's not based on understanding principles. It just wants magical things to happen. And that's understandable when you're afraid. If you think of the difference between alchemy and chemistry, the difference between astrology and astronomy, you get kind of a sense of the difference that's here. Magical religion can be enchanting, it can give you insights, but it doesn't help you understand the principles that you're going to be living in. You think of alchemy, all of the wonderful inventive stories that were there. And yet there was no real understanding of the day in which they lived. Astrology, and I think a lot of people get insights from that. A lot of people get intuitions and this kind of thing. but I don't think they learn about the real planets. Right? In all the years that astrology ruled, nobody learned anything about Venus. I mean, would you choose that as the romantic planet if you knew what it looked like? Would you say, well, if it was in this part of the sky, you're going to have bad relationships when it comes over here? See, that made sense when people thought the planets were beings, were gods and goddesses. But when you move a rock over here, or a gas giant over here, it all of a sudden becomes magical, and there's not a whole lot of insight that's necessarily there for you. I love a saying by Robert Wilson Anton, who is not a fan of the Christian churches, I remember, but love can learn from anyone. So it says, there are more miracles in a square yard of earth than all the fables of the church. If we listen for wisdom, its teaching is everywhere at all times, through our real lives. But when we think this is a story of a magic person doing magic tricks with magic power, religion can lead us further and further away from our own hearts and minds. So in the Sophia poetry, it's saying the universe is held together by a cosmic wisdom. You are a child of that wisdom. When Jesus is called the Son of God, the child of God, the offspring of God, he's trying to share with you that that's you too. Jesus didn't come here to say, I'm the only one. And what I want you to do is grovel the rest of your life, and I'll give you some toys. It's you are the light of the world. You are the salt of the earth. You are the offspring of whatever the creative principle of the universe is. And there's nothing you can win in life that replaces the sense of worth you have from knowing who you are in the cosmos. So the first gift Sophia gives us today is insight over power. The second is instead of that idea that things happen one time magically, to realize that there's something happening all the time. This cosmic wisdom and creativity is happening all the time. You can't miss this bus permanently. I remember as a kid, I'd been taught magical religion. And I left my home in Dallas thinking there's a bus I got to catch that's going to the truth. And I don't know where it is, what it looks like, or when it arrives, but I'm supposed to find it and catch it. Desperation, fear. That idea that there's something better about walking on water than your everyday life is a tragic mistake. A tragic mistake to think that the everyday miracles that you walk through all day long are nothing, that they're not freakish exceptions to the laws of nature, that they're not sacred. It's destroying not only lives, but our planet. If we don't learn to see the sacred and the ordinary, we're in a world of hurt as a country. And I know this all sounds negative, but the point I want to make is the problem isn't that you say this particular thing that happened was a miracle, but the implication that follows that everything else isn't a miracle. That if Jesus can walk on water, that's a miracle. But when you can walk on the earth and honor the earth, if you don't realize that's a miracle too, then your life is deeply, deeply impoverished. You are a child of the cosmos. I don't think that's superstitious at all. I think when you just look at yourself deeply, where else could you have come from? What that means is there's something deeper in you than what is happening to you. And when Jesus talks about heaven, he's not just talking about an imaginary place up in the sky. Wisdom walks on the sky, it walks on the waves, but it's everywhere at all times. How different it feels to realize that if you go deeply enough inside, that there's always peace there. That's the implication of you being a child of the cosmos. That there's something within you that's deeper than the storms. I believe that's part of the lesson that they're trying to give. Not that the walking on water is a one-time magic trick, a magic person, but that there's a love that is always there, that is happening all the time. It's always speaking to you. It's always guiding you, always leading you. You just have to know to listen for it. And the third insight I'm suggesting that we at least consider is that magical events are private or they belong to your sect, your family, your country. Mystical happenings are universal. They're happening to everybody, everywhere, all the time. In these stories, these magical kinds of stories, I think that the writers, the poets that put these stories together were trying to help you see a face on the storms of your own life. That Jesus is acting out in parable, the fact that you're not alone, even though it seems like that. That you're not abandoned, even if it feels that way. That the sacred is not hiding from you. It's in every bush, every branch, every blade of grass. Jesus is the face of the cosmic wisdom. You don't stop with the face. And once you have the wisdom, it doesn't have to be Christian anymore. You're going to see it everywhere. You're going to see it in Buddhism. You're going to see it in a loving atheist. You're going to see it everywhere. What kind of a product only comes in one kind of bottle? Right? And what kind of a product do you need hell, pointing at your temple, a gun pointing at you to think, okay, this is a product I'll take? If this cosmic wisdom is everywhere, then we may choose to go to hell to bring love there. Isn't that where love would go? Where the pain is, where the need is, where the lost souls are? So we have an inconsistency that comes from believing in a torture chamber, or a God that would introduce a torture chamber. Magical religion cannot get rid of the fear that we have. And all you have to do is look at this country. You look at the religious right and the solutions they're coming up with. They're always attacking marginalized people, vulnerable people. It's the gay people. It's Black Lives Matter. It's immigrants. But it's never the things that are really killing us. I love Wanda Sykes. She had a joke that kind of hurts more than it's funny, but she says, until a drag queen walks into a school and beats 8 kids to death with a copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, I think you're focusing on the wrong stuff. Only if we know we're children of the cosmos, children of the sacred, can we have the courage to make choices other than fear, other than superstition, other than power, other than magic. When we realize who we are the light of the world, we are the salt of the earth. There's nothing in the whole world that is more valuable than you are. And to trade yourself for money or even survival betrays your own essence. The Christian story is not one of personal salvation, but a love that lifts us above life's storms. So let me see if I can summarize this and put it in one bottle. We'll see. I think it's hugely important for us to consider what our religion means to the rest of the world. If our religion means pain for some other people and injustice, then I think cosmic wisdom itself is saying we can do better than that. We can choose insight over power. We have to have trust. We have to have faith. But changing the universe is not as helpful and loving as listening and learning and responding to the universe. To stop trying to change the universe and change ourselves so that we become a gift to the world. And then second, to stop believing that the stories that are told in the Christian text are about one-time magic tricks. I don't think any of them are. I think they're all teaching stories about a process that's happening all the time, not somewhere else, but within you and around you. If you can't find it in you, look at the person sitting next to you. And then finally, that it's not this surrender to fear that we call salvation in the church. There is salvation, but it means wholeness. It means realizing your enemy is your friend, it's your family. It's recognizing that life and death are not two separate things, and one of them isn't your friend and one the enemy. Living in the whole is what we're looking for. What we're needing is not a magic person to come and a one-time miracle change our lives and save us from the consequences of our own actions. What we need is the love that lifts us above the divisions, above the hatred, and above the fear, and helps us to see this world as one. Well, that's my understanding of the story. We'll take a moment for you to think how you would understand it.
as the choir prepares to give their gift of beautiful song, we have the opportunity to think about how we might give back to this community and to the world, actually. May our offerings bring help and hope to people who are suffering. May they be used to bring justice where injustice reigns, to pour out mercy to those who need it most, and be a tangible sign of love for our world. We present these gifts as our act of commitment to the values to which we ascribe. If the ushers would please come forward.
Sing a jubilant song, a jubilant song, a joyous song of praise. Sing a jubilant song to celebrate life, a jubilant song. One voice, one soul, one joy. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Sing a song, a jubilant song, oh sing a jubilant song, a song, a jubilant song, oh sing a jubilant song. Sing a jubilant song, a jubilant song, a joyous song of praise, oh sing a jubilant song to celebrate life, a jubilant song. One voice, one soul, one joy. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Of hope and peace. Hallelujah.
want to thank everyone for being with us today and in this time. And this is our staff. If you have any questions or concerns, they'll be happy to visit with you after the service. And just remember that whatever you face in the week ahead, that the wisdom that you need is already there to face whatever it is. Because each of you is a child of that wonderful spirit of love we sometimes call God. And that spirit knows when you skin your knee or your heart. That spirit knows when you admire a butterfly or cry in the darkness. So go out into this wonderful creation and tell the whole world that they are loved just exactly as they are. Go and kiss the hurts of this world. Go and laugh and play in the fields of grace and love. Go in peace. Amen.